Magical thinking is the idea that thoughts alone can have resulting actions in the physical world. That would be things like rituals, ceremonies, things like that, things that transcend the physical. Maybe one of the things that's transcending the physical is you tuning into this video. Is this a ritual? Are you here again? Have you been here before? I don't know. But this is Magical Thinking, the 4th episode of Star Trek Khan, the audio series. And I must say, specifically with this episode, another banger, by the way. So far, the only one that hasn't been, amazing was, the second one. But generally speaking, I would venture a guess that the most of the episodes of this, 1, 3, and 4 of Star Trek Khan are just, better than any Strange New Worlds episode so far. And they're only half an hour long and have no visual component. No visual component is part of the reason why I do non-traditional reviews for Star Trek Khan. You know how my reviews usually operate, on the ship, yada, yada, yada. I don't gotta explain that. It just didn't feel fair to give Star Trek Khan that same type of review, not as a knock against Khan, but I came up with, over time, congealed in my mind, the primordial soup in my brain, congealed this idea to review things kind of, a semi-objective way, I hope so anyway, with my main reviews, with regards to New Trek usually. I have a visual component, an audio component, the story, the plot, the themes, and when you're missing visuals completely, you obviously can't use that same structure. So I just decided to forego that entirely and go with this more experimental type of video. And when Star Trek Con concludes, this type of video should remain. I want to try to keep producing this exact type of video, but the traditional reviews will remain for Star Trek Academy. So, don't get too upset about it. But Star Trek Con, this episode in particular, called Magical Thinking, contains so much plot. So many things happen in half an hour. The amount of things that happen in half an hour here make you wonder how it was that they wasted enough time in Star Trek Strange New Worlds with a whole hour. How did they do it? How did they manage to take an hour and say nothing in Strange New Worlds? I don't want to make this entire review for Star Trek Con just to be the dumping on Strange New Worlds show, but it's hard not to see, when one follows directly after the other, the difference. Specifically with the finale of Strange New Worlds, it felt like they crammed 3 different episodes into one with, what was it? I can't even remember the name of the finale for season 3. And they crammed 3 episodes worth of content into one in the most contrived, nonsensical, magical way. Magical thinking. The final episode of Strange New Worlds season 3 felt like magic. Be careful that your technology doesn't begin to feel like magic, because people will question the other things, right? They will begin to question the veracity of the ship. Is the technology trustworthy? How do I know it works? What does it do? What can it not do? More importantly, anyone who is writing sci-fi, in my opinion, has to answer the question, not what your technology can do, but what can it not do? That's the important question. What can we not do? Otherwise, there's no tension. There's no stakes. And I don't know what can happen and what can't happen. Right now, Star Trek Con, this episode, crams, I don't want to spoil it, but so many character development beats, battles, adventure, into one half-hour chunk that did not feel contrived. It somehow felt like half an hour went by in 1 minute, and I never lost track of what was happening. It was really remarkable. And specifically near the end of this episode, we begin to ask the hard questions. You probably know, if you know Star Trek, what the hard questions are. Questions that the fan base has been asking since before I was born, frankly. How did Kirk not figure out that SETI Alpha 6 was unstable? Right? Really? Are we just? Does it take? Can a planet go from stable to unstable? That fast? I mean, the questions remain, and they do ask the questions, and it pops up at the end of this episode. Not to spoil it, but Tuvok is involved, and more or less, we'll look into it. We're getting a "we'll look into it" from Starfleet, and I don't want to dig up the whole Kirk. Did Kirk know? Was Kirk malicious in his intent with City Alpha 5 and everything? If you know, you know. I don't want to relitigate that entire thing. Imagine me saying that as I'm enjoying Star Trek Con, digging up the past and, recontextualizing it. I can't fault it for asking the question that we've all been asking since forever. But at the same time, do we want to see Kirk, this character that is from our past, be dug back up, re-examined, and you do what the new Trek writers want to do, throw them in the garbage? Don't think I didn't see what you did to Icheb in Star Trek Picard season 1. Don't think I didn't see that. I saw that. I saw what you did, and I know people want to know what was the deal with City Alpha 5, City Alpha 6, and is this an instant where the question is better than the answer? That's something for you to decide, but it is brought up in the end of this episode. And in this episode specifically, we see, on a different note entirely, the changing of the purely utilitarian Khan into the romantic, larger than life, charismatic figurehead Khan, because the arrival of the new technology, for them, these people are from World War III. They're from, in a sense, the past. They're from a world very much like the Earth you might be from right now. And we see them now grappling with the arrival of the technology that we had in the Enterprise at that time. As our character, Marla, gives up her secrets and, exclaims that Starfleet promotes a culture of not immediately just giving advanced technology to primitive people who, by comparison, these people in Khan's augment family would seem primitive compared to her from the Enterprise. And, Khan says the obvious, you demand you be on equal footing before you conquer them. Something like that. Khan has a view towards the Federation. And we see Marla, we see Khan, we see the events on this planet transpire and turn Khan into the magical thinker. Okay, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but we go from, like I said, the utilitarian world of old Khan to the new tradition of the new empire of Khan, right? He does use the word empire on more than one occasion. I'm not inventing that. And I'll be damned if for a moment I didn't want him to win. Isn't that crazy? Have I lost my mind? I want Khan to win. I know it's impossible. I know that's insane. But call it the silver tongue. They say it's the mark of a good officer, right? Khan is winning me over. Isn't that the mark also of a good show? When you're willing to believe the impossible, right? Isn't that what movies are? And this isn't a movie, a story. We should call it a story. I think that's a good way to say it. Believing something that just can't be true. And I was starting to believe it this time with Star Trek Khan and his magical thinking. By the way, on a side note, have you seen Brannon Braga? He came in with TNG and he hung around all the way through Enterprise, I believe. Showrunner, writer, what have you, producer. I can't remember the exact details, but Brannon Braga was all over the place with Rick Berman. Berman and Braga, people used to say. And I come from that era where you're supposed to hate these people. And isn't that so funny? How you hate these people and then one day you're just saying, please come back. Your mileage may vary. But he was saying that one of the issues with, say, Strange New Worlds was just not having enough episodes. You're not invested. The episodes are not just on television all the time. There's not like a mass syndication. There's like an exclusivity to it. And it's kind of like, I think it's, and this wasn't what I'm saying. He was saying that it was like a short-term relationship, right? You weren't really getting into it over a long period of time. And essentially, in a nutshell, he's saying what I said in my first away mission. Does Star Trek need longer seasons? Yes, that's what he's saying, yes. And I would say, specifically, we shouldn't have 10. Maybe we shouldn't have 22. We used to get 22 episodes, like 20 to 25 episodes, like half a year for a season, and you got so many until you were in syndication. That was crazy at breakneck speed. Maybe we could do 15. Strange New World Season 3 needed 15. It wasn't very good. I'm glad it's over. But that last episode, it needed to be a two-parter, at least. Because the faster you have to tell the story, and the less skilled you are, the more crap you're going to have to make up. And they didn't have to do that with Star Trek Con, Magical Thinking. We got so much in this one episode, it was remarkable. Anyway, I'm Lieutenant Mark, and that was this episode of Star Trek Con, Magical Thinking. Check it out on YouTube. You have no excuse. Get on it. So long.